Hello friends, it's Nick and the team from the Small Green Studio. We are a socially and environmentally responsible production company. Small Green Stories is a diary of our work brought to you as a regular podcast, sometimes recorded on location with clients and partners, and sometimes in the studio with guests. This podcast is for you if you're interested in hearing impactful stories and maybe you want to improve the storytelling at your own organisation. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to another episode of Small Green Stories. The sun is out and the birds are singing, and today I am bringing you along to a session that we filmed with a small crew on behalf of fellow B Corp company, HewardMills. HewardMills was set up as a diverse and inclusive global business that prioritises data dignity. The team are multilingual and have deep skills in law, technology, cybersecurity and communications, and they offer those services as your global data protection office. The fact that they are a diverse team by design means that cultures, perspectives and experiences help them operate in 70 jurisdictions across the globe. Today's podcast isn't so much about data protection officers specifically, but those skills do make HewardMills uniquely placed to support a community interest company called Protect Black Women, which gives access to free and low-cost counselling for black women. The work we do at the Small Green Studio means that we often find ourselves working at the intersection between business and non-profits, and we love to bring stories to life in those areas. For me personally, I also try to be an ally wherever possible and find that hearing from individuals and their own lived experience is vital to the work that I do. And it's important to me as a curious storyteller and as a father setting an example to my children. This year, International Women's Day, the theme is empowerment. So in the spirit of empowering women, and in particular black women, I would like to introduce Deanne, Christine and Feluke, who've given me permission to share this video, to tell you all about the work that they are doing. It's super inspiring stuff, and we can learn from all of the practices that they talk about.
So ladies, we're here today to speak about the Protect Black Women movement, to explain a little bit about who we are and what the movement is about. So perhaps I'll start with Feluke. What does Protect Black Women mean to you?
It means inspiration to me. I've always been inspired by black women, black women's experiences, knowledge, practices. So I think I was in my world enjoying that, and so there's inspiration, and then I guess there's tribulation. We meet misogynoir in the world, and particularly we got talking around those very public incidences of misogynoir against public figures, and what can we do? So I think it was you and Christine actually who came with, we need to protect black women and this is what we're going to do. So we are working to combat and help smooth our way and open ways through misogynoir so that black women can be supported and enabled to enjoy and make and live full lives, really.
So there's something about the celebration and the liberation and all of that. And Christine, same question to you. Why protect black women?
I think for me, there's something very inspiring about activism. In the face of hatred, you bring love. In the face of people being downtrodden, you counteract that with a movement. And for me, Protect Black Women, when I think about it, I think about all of the black women in my life who have protected me. And I also think about the ways in which I could pour into them, and also honour their memories. And there's something really rebellious about building up and restoring and healing that which they would destroy. And that's part of my motivation for being here.
So there's partly this sort of homage to the protection that you've received and paying it back or paying it forward.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of, I guess there's a fighting spirit, a rebellion against the forces of misogyny and racism, so-called misogynoir, and actually doing the counter So what do they want to see? They want to see me broken. Actually, I'm going to rise.
Yeah.
What do they want to see? They want to see me in sort of pain. I'm actually going to be in joy. So it's sort of, yes, the sort of the opposite, and using that as a sort of resistance and a force, a counteraction.
And I think by protecting Black women, ultimately, I'm protecting myself. And by pouring into Black women, I'm pouring into myself. So it's actually part of my self-care practice to be involved in something like this.
Can I add to the homage
Yeah.
lineage that actually there's nothing new really about this? We are a new organisation, but the practices are old and long. It's a lineage of protecting Black women. Some of the pushback that we've had around what does it mean to protect Black women? Are you sure you don't want to have a different name? Is, I think, forgetting that the primary practitioners of something called protecting Black women are Black women.
Yeah.
So let's celebrate that. So we're paying homage like you. There are many Black women without whom I don't think I would be here, to be honest. But also, where do they come from? Where did they learn those practices of resisting misogynoir? But of course, that's quite a new term to really speak to. There's racism. We can think about racism. We can think about sexism. But something about how they meet in the experience a particular hate, we could say, or kind of antagonism and struggle against Black women and our experience. So misogynoir is quite a useful term. I think I hesitated to use it because I'm talking about a lineage and women who would not have necessarily used that term, but I think that is what they were countering, insisting on living.
So when people say, so protect Black women, what do you actually do? So what is the practice? Can we speak to that and explain a bit about what is done within the movement?
Yeah, I think we always wanted Protect Black Women, first of all, to be a positive movement. So it's not really about fighting. It's not about engaging with these people that would, oppress us. But it's really about creating spaces and creating practices where Black women can come together and heal and be heard and be seen. It's about recognizing our vulnerability, and that is it's a beautiful thing. It's a thing to be honored. The fragility of Black women, there's so many kind of tropes around like Black women being strong and Black women being aggressive and things like that. And it's just to counteract that narrative and say that in this movement, what we want to create is a healing space. And we want to recognize the vulnerability of Black women without them having to explain themselves to us. And we're going to create like nourishing experiences for them. So whether that is specifically in counselling and, providing therapeutic services, or it's just in that coming together, that community, that, togetherness, and understanding that is part of what we need as well. And that there's a lot of isolation that is created through the forces of sexism and racism. And that when we come together, we heal. So I would consider it a broader practice of things that we do that edify and uplift us.
Okay, so I heard counselling, I also heard community. And so perhaps we can say a little bit more about both, the sort of specifics. So perhaps, should we start with the counselling and just talk about the service that we've offered and how that's sort of structured?
So we offer the counselling service in partnership with an organisation called Headstrong Counselling. And we now have a team of around about 60 Black women therapists who provide the service. And that is accessed to anybody who needs to know through the website. You can sign up there or you can register for an assessment there. That provides a free assessment and low-cost counselling. And so far, I think we're talking about
almost 200 women.
200 women who've accessed that service,
Yeah.
and we started earlier on this year. So that's in a relatively short period of time.
So what's unique about the Protect Black Women Headstrong service as opposed to any counselling service that Black women might access?
One of the things is for Black women by Black women.
Yeah.
Definitely. I just wanted to pick up something Christine said about fight, and I want to unsettle the idea of what a fight looks like. I think a fight can sometimes be having joy. To fight sometimes means taking rest where you're not supposed to be taking rest, dancing where you are supposed to be crying. You know, I think we do encourage a fight. So I don't know if it's unique. I'm not sure if I can make that claim, but it is very special. And it is very important to us that this is continually informed by the actual experience and knowledge and wisdom and practice of Black women, including a whole team of Black women therapists working with other Black women. The amount of knowledge that's being generated through the provision of the service then pours back into it. So I don't know if that's unique, but we are interested in a community, not simply funding is important. If you want to donate, please do. We need funds. But we also, where's the life of a project? And one of the things I have learnt through experience is if there's no community, if it's for community, if you're trying to offer services to community, when the money runs out or the building closes, there is nothing left. But if it's with community, if the community is integral to it, the money runs out or the building closes and you meet around your kitchen table or you find somewhere to be. And I think that's what's unique about this project. Or as I might say as a Black feminist, we come together to become together.
We come together to become together. I love that. So powerful.
Yeah.
And should we just say a little bit more about community and how wide that spreads and some of the activities that we're engaged in and want to be engaged in?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to pick up on something that Fuluke said about therapeutic services. And I think also why it's important is that there is a gap in therapy, in theories of psychotherapy, where that recognition of the intersectionality of sexism and racism demands and requires a special empathy. Mm-hmm. And what we are trying to create now is a set of practices that are empathetic without requiring, without putting a burden on the people experiencing that sort of oppression to have to explain themselves. So you go into a therapeutic space, and before you have even spoken,
You are understood.
you are understood.
You are seen,
and
you're heard.
And you're seen and you're heard and you're recognized. And I think when we've spoken to many of the counsellors that I've actually spoken to, they talk about this gap and this absence there is in psychotherapeutic practice of recognizing, different communities and what their specific needs are.
Let's speak about the intention of protecting Black women and actually what we're seeking to achieve.
Our overall goal and mission is to be part of an empathetic and therapeutic community and movement for Black women. And because we say be part of, because we recognise that there are other organisations, there are other communities doing that work, mm-hmm. And we want to be part of that. So we want to elevate those organisations, but we're also creating our own special thing here, mm-hmm. which is therapeutics, which you've talked a lot about with an X.
Therapeutics with an X.
Yeah.
So maybe say a bit more about that for Luque.
I think when we say therapeutic or therapy, we very quickly get an idea or think we know what that means. Mm-hmm. And I think as somebody who's studied to become a therapist and has been practicing for a therapist for a long time, what I recognize is that what I have studied, or the formal qualification part of the study, included very little, if anything, of me. my experience, what I might know, what I might need, how I might think. So in a sense, I think the thing we call therapy is founded on the erasure and absence of Black women. Mm-hmm. So therapeutics is my way of trying to open it up and think about what it might be. I think we're working it out. I'm a great believer in working it out, a practice of experimentation and trying to expand the practice so that there's enough room for us. So therapeutics might not look like two people in a room having a private conversation. Maybe it looks like a number of people. Maybe we're not in a room. Maybe we are, as we were the other day,
on a dance floor.
On a dance floor. Or on a golf course, which is somewhere I never imagined I would ever be. But it was a really expanding and expansive experience. And I think if I think about what Protect Black Women means to me, I would like it to mean that opportunity to expand. We are so much more than we know. We know so much more than we know. We live in such a kind of hostile environment sometimes that the conditions for that to emerge, for that to be drawn out, doesn't exist. So therapeutics is speculative in some way. We're working it out.
We're working it out.
And who knows what it's going to look like, but I trust that it is, that it's where the life is. And when I look at the faces of the counsellors, especially today, I can see life.
I see life.
I see life. I see what happens when we come together and we're actually able to look at each other in the eye and something happens. Now, if I tell you that I know what that is, I'm already limiting it. But if we take that as some possibility, some future possibility, what can be, then I think we are on track.
So I want to ask something here. And I hear what you say about the life force and it being very emergent. And what about others that might want to be involved? What about men? Can men protect Black women?
Absolutely, 100%. Why not? Part of the problem is that when you say something's for Black women or mention Black women, there's an assumption that it's only for Black women. So there's some knowledge. We all study therapeutics. You go to the library. Maybe you pick up Freud or Jung. The assumption is that's universal. That's for everybody. It might be written by white men, but it's for everybody. It's knowledge. But when you start talking about Black women, people turn away as if it doesn't concern them. Oh, that's not to do with me because I'm a man or because I'm not a Black woman. Why not? So in the world that I imagine, it's absolutely to do with everyone. And in fact, I guess it's a core principle of Black feminism. If we're not free, no one's free. And if we're free, everyone's free. Absolutely. So absolutely, it benefits you as a man to protect and support an initiative called Protect Black Women. And we're open to all kinds of ideas about how that might happen. We're always conjuring possibilities. So, yeah, I don't know.
Now,
and what do you think, Christine?
If someone wants to support, what are your thoughts?
I think people can support in so many ways. There's something about showing up for the Black women in your life. And there's something about also answering the call when we host an event, when we ask for funding, when we kind of, create opportunities for you to invest either your money, your time. We want you to show up and do what you can. I think there's also something about protecting Black women in spaces where we are not there, and thinking about that as you go about your daily life and setting up and creating spaces where we can enter. And I think, part of the Protect Black Women resistance is for us to be able to inhabit spaces safely. Mm-hmm. So if you think about social media and online and how toxic an environment that has been, it's really important for our allies to recognize that there are certain spaces that are unwelcoming to us and think about what they can do. So there's something about them speaking up, even when we are not there.
Even when we're not in the room.
But definitely, we live in a world where there's an economic reality around the impacts of misogynoir. You know, we know that Black women are paid less. We know that they have less access to resources. There's something about recognizing that part of the resistance and the restoration is an economic assistance that we need. So where people can, and if you do have the means and resources, we would ask you explicitly to show up in that way, because that's really important for people to recognize. This stuff does not come for free.
Yeah.
And I think Black women shouldn't be expected to do this work for free either. And so our thing, and part of our thing, is the economic empowerment as well as everything else. Yeah.
And I guess like HewardMills as a B Corp company, we're very proud to be able to support initiatives like this, very focused at sort of making the world a more equitable place. And so I guess maybe sort of final words, like how do you envision this evolving and developing, and where do you see us going?
But Diane, I'd like to turn that question. You've been asking all the questions.
Okay.
And I think, you know, you are very much the visionary in this as well. I'd just like to ask you, you know, what possibilities have you imagined for Protect Black Women? Where might this movement go?
So I guess there's something about the movement might go to a place where it's not needed at all, right? Where we are in a world where Black women do not need protection. But we're so far away from that, as you mentioned, where we look in sort of, when it comes to health, education system, legal system, sort of the oppression is immense and it's acute. So I guess it's sort of chipping away at that in every way that we can. And I do see it as a form of self-protection also, thinking about how do we protect the protectors. There's so many Black women out there doing incredible work. And so it's about pouring in to those. So finding them wherever they are, in the workplace, in schools, in the legal system, in the healthcare system, as counsellors, and offering the support that we can with the means that we have. And we've already done so much, but there's so much more, I guess, possibility and opportunity. So I'm here for that. How about you, Feluke and Christine?
Ooh. Yeah, I'm going to just own it. I don't know. I don't know. And I think it's good that I don't know, because it's beyond me. It's bigger than me. It's more than me. It's a murmuration. It's a collective movement. I'm happy to be part of the transmission. If there are things that I would like to transmit, it is the sense of our kind of rich lineages, this huge resource that we are, the connections, what can happen when we come together. So I'd like to be part of the transmission of the value of that, so that whatever the future is, whatever the vision is, it will be more than I could even have imagined.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I don't know, but it will be better than that. Whatever it is that I've imagined is going to be more than that and better than that.
Thank you. I think that's a really good note to end on.
Okay.
So thank you to Deanne, Christine and Feluke and the extended team from Protect Black Women and Headstrong Counselling for letting us reshare this conversation. I found the whole experience fun and at times very moving. The team are also working on some really impactful action for Black women's rights, which will be announced around about the time that this podcast comes out. So do keep an eye out for those too. So on to our production lesson for this episode, and it's all about framing. We intentionally positioned our panel on those stools so that we could easily crop the individuals out into a vertical format for social media clips. And you can see here we also had a second camera on the close-up, but in vertical format this tends to be too close and isn't great for overlaying text or visuals. As always, thanks for listening, and get in touch using Do Stuff at the Small Green Studio for feedback and collaborations, and do check out HewardMills if your business needs help with data protection wherever you are in the world. And if you can, do support the Protect Black Women movement. Ciao for now.